Welcome back to the What's More podcast. I'm your host, Quinton Harris, and today I've got one of my returning standing co-hosts, Mr. Lenny Curry. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back.
Good to be back.
Yeah, man, we're excited. So today is Monday. Big day tomorrow, right? Huge day.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about, like, this is kind of a proud father moment for you and I, right? So we both have, and I didn't know this till recently, we both have daughters, same birthday.
Yes.
Same birthday. And so it's kind of interesting. We bumped into each other celebrating our and my wife shares the same birthday as my daughter. So we were having a birthday dinner, a bump in. You guys are at the same place.
That's right.
So that's awesome. One of the things that we both got to take advantage of this year was to be able to take our kids to go vote for the first time.
That's right.
Like, I don't know about you. I looked back. I was like 21 when I got to go vote. Were you 18 when you got to do the vote for the first time?
I was thinking about that the other day, and I don't recall.
Yeah, I just was like, wait a minute. My son's going to be in his 20s when he does it.
Because I remember always, no, I think I did get to vote when I was 18.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that's really cool.
Yes.
Like, I didn't, but I wanted to make sure my daughter went. So
Yes.
part of the process is that you turn 18, then you got to do the registration
That's
online
right.
before October 4th. That's the
Yep.
big thing, right? So our daughters were right there on the cusp of that. We got it in. And it's interesting to me because I was like so excited. And then I started talking to my daughter about all of her friends that turned 18. I was shocked how many parents didn't have like the conversation like, hey, you got to register before October vote. Like, there's so many votes left on the table that didn't go do that. And I was like, man, is this a microcosm
Well,
of...
it probably begs the question if those parents are even, well, they probably are registered to vote, but maybe they don't vote.
Maybe they don't.
Right?
Maybe they don't, which
It's not
is a whole nother topic.
It is a whole.
And I might come back to that one.
Right.
Whole nother topic. But, this cool moment of taking your kid to vote. And so you're going in there and, like, what was it like for Brooke and you guys? I know you took your son too. What was it like as a family moment?
Absolutely. We all went. So there's 5 of us in the house, but my youngest daughter is 15. But everyone else is of age now. So me, Molly, Boyd, Brooke, we all went and voted.
So cool.
And it was pretty special to be there. So Boyd, our son, he voted in his first election last year in the mayoral election.
Okay.
But this is the first presidential, which is a big deal,
That's
right?
a big deal.
But what I really liked about it and what was special for me was obviously being there with them.
Right.
But I didn't have to, I wasn't pressuring them or pushing. They were like, I'm voting.
Like, they were dialed in on their
let's go. When are we going?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's roll. Let's roll.
Awesome. It's kind of cool because, hats off to... Maybe it's the mainstream, like, actual, like, promotion of the amendments. And by the way, if you don't live in Florida, we had a ton of amendments this year and some pretty sensitive ones that we will not get into. But there was a lot on the table, a lot.
That's right.
And I believe that Amendment 4, I think we were the only state in America that had that amendment on there is what I read, which was a highly, highly, highly volatile one. But my daughter knew about all these. Like, she had all 6 dialed in.
Right.
And I think it's the school too, because obviously Catholic school, they're hammering some of that stuff
I think
home.
that's right.
And even the governor stopped at school, did a whole little thing. So they were very aware, actually more aware than my wife and I. I'll give them credit for that. So like you said, they were motivated to get in there. And my son, who couldn't vote, was motivated, and I'm like,
Right.
hey, dude, that's awesome, but you don't really get one on this ballot here. But so it was kind of cool. You go in there, you do it. Now I found this interesting. You go in there and obviously this is for a reason, but I was trying to, like, educate her on, hey, you have to give them the license. This is what you're going to do. And I wanted to go with her through that process, and they wouldn't let me. They're like, nope, you stay here.
Oh, you had to.
They held me back.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, hey, this is their first time. They're like, you stay here. And I was like, okay, maybe there's ratcheted up a couple of things here. So
Right.
then I got to go my turn in there, and she was kind of nervous, waited back for me, and she was even dead as electronic. And prior to this year, mine was always, still the
right.
Chads, the hanging
Right.
Chads. And we walked in there,
Right.
and I was like, no, honey. And I was prepping her. You're going to have to circle real hard, make sure it goes in there. And then we walk into these electronic machines. And I was like, well, this is kind of cool. And we stood side by side, but that was kind of cool, different for the
Right.
first time. See, it was yours electronic as well?
It was electronic.
So
yes.
that's kind of cool.
It was.
Let me ask you this. I mean, probably not you, but here I am, like, I'm watching, like, the first sheet is the major part, right? You got presidents and you've got senators. Is it kind of funny? Is it kind of weird that I was like, I did mine and then I, like, leaned to the left a little bit, look over at hers? And
No,
I'm like,
I think that's you're making.
Yeah,
Well, you're not making sure.
I'm just
right?
making
It's
sure she
different.
actually voted, right? Because
Yeah.
she was teasing me a little bit going in there. She's like, I'm just going to write Taylor Swift in there. I'm like, it's not going to happen like that, honey. She's giving me a hard time.
I was talking to my son because, look, on these amendments, right, it's politics, right? Whichever side of the issue people are on, they run a campaign and they present information to people, and that information isn't always. Sometimes it's misleading.
Oh, the wording's misleading too.
So I enjoyed having a conversation with Boyd, our son, about one of the amendments, about some of the things that he believed about it. But I had done my homework, and I was able to share the truth with him, quite
some
frankly.
facts, right?
And I said, I'm not telling you how to vote, but I want you to make sure you understand what's really in this amendment.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh. So that was kind of a cool conversation.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool because, I mean, did you find out his take going for his second time now on a major election? Was his take a little different than maybe your daughter's take as far as like viewpoints or just things in general? Or were they pretty consistent together?
Yeah, pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know. So, look, I'm a Republican, and having served in office for 8 years as mayor, and then having been chairman of the state Republican Party before that, that was my business.
Right.
So we didn't really talk a lot of politics in our house because that was work.
Okay.
So I wondered over the years, like, did I share the right information with my kids? You know, did I give them a foundation of at least philosophically what I believe politically? But they both are Republicans.
Yeah.
So
Same in my house. And,
that was their choice.
Yeah. Same thing here in our house. I think it was their choice. And it was interesting. Like, my kids have actually been more turned off by some of the portion of the election than I actually anticipated.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, you talk about like social media, like influence, misinformation, like that's actually turned them off.
Oh, yeah.
And at one point I thought it was actually going to detour like my daughter even wanting to vote.
Oh, yeah.
Which brings up the next question I had. Like, what do you say to people that don't think their vote matters or don't think their vote counts in this election or any election for that matter?
I mean, if you take that to its logical conclusion, you're just one person, right?
Right.
But if every single one person said my vote doesn't count, well, actually, then it really does count, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the exponential
Absolutely,
component of that.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's almost like a demise. Like if you're like, well, I don't matter, and then you kind of project that next person goes, well, then I don't
That's
matter.
right.
And it's just like a domino effect of people not getting out there and doing their one civic, responsibility.
It matters. Yeah, people should vote. They should educate themselves on the issues and the candidates.
Right.
Right.
I think that's the big part. Like, you don't have to have a ballot come. You can go look it up online and your ballot's there and you can study all of that. It only takes about 10 minutes, really, if you really want to dive into it or be aware. Getting aware makes 10 minutes. Maybe studying it takes an hour or two. What do you like? Do you remember when MTV came out with Rock the Vote?
Oh, yes.
Man, I mean, genius campaign to get young people out there to go do it, right? So I heard someone make the argument, and I thought this was interesting. Like, I saw they said they got upset about that mentality in this election, saying, even if you don't know, they saw a commercial that said, even if you don't know, just go vote.
Right.
And they were like, no, that's the dumbest thing you could do.
Actually, right.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. But to the counter that point, yeah, that's if you don't know what you're voting for, why go do it?
That's right.
And I thought that was an interesting point.
I mean, it's so special. The right to vote is really special. I mean, we literally, people say this as a throwaway, but people literally have died for our right to vote.
Absolutely.
Right? They've given their lives for our freedoms.
Every day they do.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Every single day that happens.
That's right.
And there's countries where you don't ever get to do this, right? And so the power to do that, the power of the people, if you may, that is something that we have. And when you kind of like discount that and don't go do that, like you're not understanding what happened and what is happening for you to have that right.
That's right. I mean, we have the right to vote. We have the right to criticize our leaders.
Ooh,
right?
That's a big one.
We can say
that's a big one.
I mean,
yeah. We can say that without having to look over our shoulder.
That's right.
Or our houses being raided at night.
That's right.
Like that's a big deal.
It's huge.
That's a big deal. A lot of people don't, realize that that's something that and maybe we just we take it for granted, whatever it may be. But I think it's days like this tomorrow, right? I mean, tomorrow, if you're in politics, it's your Super Bowl, right? But even if you're not, just as an American citizen, like it's an opportunity to sit back to see the power of the people, and you could argue whatever you want to argue about that, right? I'm not going to get into that, but I think that's going to be really, really exciting to watch. And, it'll change our country for the next 4 years.
Absolutely.
For the next 4 years, it'll alter the path from just everything we talk about on this show, from economics to world trade, foreign policy. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
It's going to alter the path. That's why it's important to get out there and vote.
It's really important. And I just hope after we get through tomorrow and we know the results that I think I heard J.D. Vance say the other day, you shouldn't lose friendships over politics.
It's a good line.
Right?
Or family.
For family, that's right.
There was a time my brother-in-law and I, like this is I'll bring this up. And Dustin, if you're listening, there was a time when he and I were not allowed to talk politics. We were not. Like it wasn't going to be there. My wife and his wife were like, please don't do this again. And it came down, it was that first Obama election.
Oh, yeah.
And it just was it became so volatile.
Right.
Conversations. We actually were stupid enough to watch a debate together. I don't know why we did that. That was a dumb idea. But yeah, just like you said, shouldn't lose friendship and shouldn't lose anything.
I ran into someone in public somebody came up to me in a public place that I haven't seen in probably 10 years. Mm-hmm. Hey, how are you? It's been so long. Real friendly. And what are you up to? And I casually mentioned the Trump campaign. Face got straight.
Oh, no.
Like, started lecturing me.
Ugh.
And I said, excuse me, this will be decided on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah. Let things fall the way they fall.
But it was really intense.
Yeah.
You hear of Trump derangement syndrome? I experienced
it firsthand. So,
because if someone said to me, if that person had said to me, for example, started mentioning the other team, their campaign, I'd have just listened. Right? This is the United States of America. We have the right to vote, and we can disagree on policy and candidates.
Correct. And that's okay. You're right. It's also okay to not agree with someone, and it's okay for them not to agree with you.
Right.
There's no reason to get hostile or upset or raise a voice. That's the whole point. That's the beauty of this system. And I love that line from Vance. Reason to lose friends over this.
Right.
My wife, she's in medical world, and so she has patients that come in, and she gets to hear. It's funny because they come in for obviously a medical problem. But she's like, I feel like I'm a political psychologist or analyst because that's all they talk about.
Yes.
And she goes, I get both sides of it all day long. And so by the time she comes home, she was like, man, the level of again, it's just volatility.
Yeah, there was a
very volatile.
There was a poll on the news yesterday morning. I think they said 69% of people polled have anxiety over this election.
Yeah.
That's a huge number.
It's a big number.
I mean, anxiety is a heavy word.
Big.
I mean, I'm concerned. I want the election to go the way I want it to go, and I think it's really important. Mm-hmm. I don't have anxiety.
I don't have anxiety. I'm concerned, but I don't have anxiety.
Right. Anxiety is big.
And I have concern on both sides of the table, right? I mean, openly, whoever inherits this economy, as I will call it, whoever inherits this team, this notion, they're going to have issues. They're both going to be facing the same bad situation as they come in there. How they handle it will differentiate them, but they're both going to get dealt a pretty tough hand. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
That gives me concern, right? That's where I'm concerned. Anxiety, that's a different situation. But, I think that for me, one of the things I thought was important that I wanted to teach my daughter about early voting was that when you early vote, it's locked in. The vote is locked in.
Yes.
Right? And we start getting numbers come in early and we can kind of get an idea of what things look like. But you really made an impact early voting. The day of, we saw this last election, even the election before, people were still in line, but they'd already called it.
That's right.
They'd already called it. And if you want to be the impact, you want to change the world away, get out there and early vote. And that's why it's open for 2 weeks.
Early voting also is really important for your candidate of choice because their campaign strategy and use of resources is tied to early voting. So if whatever your party registration is, if you vote early, that candidate, whether it's a presidential election or a mayoral election or a congressional seat, whatever,
interesting.
They know they've got your vote. They assume you probably have voted party line.
Right.
Most people do.
They know.
And then they can direct resources based on those early votes.
So let me use an example. So say here in Duval County, the candidate of my choice is crushing it, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, that kind of is in line with the rest of the county. They may direct resources from this to another county that they don't have. Okay, that makes sense.
Or the other thing I tell, when you have local elections, this is an example.
Okay.
And you get all this mail from all these candidates, and you get phone calls to go vote. Vote early.
And that'll stop.
And they'll stop talking to you.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Because vote early, the mail stops, the phone
text
calls
messages stop.
Yeah, it all
and
stops.
Our producer, Charlie, just said for the show, he's like, man, I'm getting
Charlie,
hounded.
I'm beating the table again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, he's just like, oh, it's passion, though. It's over here. But the thing is, I did read that they track that. And so ironically, after we early voted, I stopped getting the text messages.
That's right.
I stopped getting the phone calls. And so, hey, Charlie, you should early vote. That stuff will stop. You won't get harassed as much over there. But yeah, no, that makes sense. And, it definitely is a more powerful tool. Early voting is what I was trying to drive home to her.
Yes.
And I think that, obviously my wife was the same way. It's just, it makes such a difference out there. And in our county or our state, early voting, you can go anywhere.
That's right.
Up until Friday, right?
That's
We got
right.
until Friday. Friday being tomorrow. We're recording this on Thursday, airing on Monday. We got till tomorrow that you can go out and go do that. And as I learned recently, not every state's like that. And it's interesting to me because I was talking to a business colleague of mine in Texas, and she was saying in Texas, they're not allowed to go to multiple, they can't go to different zones like we can, like they can't do that. And so I thought that was interesting. Like, she was like, I've got to go to this designated area, and it's just, it's inconvenient.
We have made it really convenient in Florida, and that's a compliment to our, really convenient
to our system and the way we've done it.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, I tell you what though, so Floridians, get out there and vote. America, get out there and vote. It's important, and tomorrow's the big day. It's
the big day, and I'm sure we'll have some post-election conversations in this venue, right?
Yeah, absolutely will. Last question, could put you on the spot here. Do you think the election goes to midnight, over, like in the AM hours? Do you think we go that deep?
Just based on history, yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And in all fairness, there's so many questions I want to ask you, but I know you're on the news tomorrow night, right during this, and I didn't want to put you in any spot where you got to answer that. So if you really want to see the election analyzed, tune into Fox.
Yes,
local channel.
Local Fox will be on from 7 to 8 on live TV, and then 8 to 10 online, and then the evening newscast at 10 and 11.
Yeah. So if you want the real deal of what's going on, you're going to get it right there.
Yeah.
Lenny, as always, thanks for being on the show, my friend. Absolutely. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, please share this podcast, 5-star review it. More importantly, get out there and vote, because every vote matters in this one, guys. We'll see you at the next episode of What's Your One More.
Look forward.
Got one more shot, I'm going to make it. One more chance, I'm going to take it. I meant it when I said it, now it's time for me to do it. I got one life to live, so I put my all into it, yeah.